Today's session is all about looking at the marketing, business, and technology trends of 2022 because they are going to be a world of difference from what they were in 2019. And I'm not just talking about remote work here. This all came about from a conversation I was having with a client, and he kind of just did a throwaway comment. I hope 2022 is going to be more like 2019. It's going to be nothing like it was in 2019. Things have dramatically, seismically shifted. And I don't mean just remote work. Remote work was always going to happen. Our team has been fully remote for 7 or 8 years. That was always something that was going to happen. I'm talking about other seismic shifts that are really happening in the marketplace. Now, I don't have a crystal ball, but I've got something close, because I get to see the inside of so many different businesses and industries every single day. That gives me a little bit of an edge. And that's why I want to share these things with you. If you've been thinking about the future, if you've been thinking about what's going to happen in 2022, you're in the right place at the right time. Let's start with the first thing that you really need to think about. I've doubled down on email marketing, and I think you should too. I love all the different technologies that are out there. I love all the ways of communicating, but email has been just a mainstay of good marketers forever. And it's going to continue to be so. It's something that can really cut through. There's a couple of reasons why I think you should double down on it. Do you want to be the landlord, not the tenant? What do I mean by that? A lot of people are investing time, money, energy into social media platforms, into TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and there's nothing wrong with that. On those platforms, you are a tenant. For example, if my Instagram got deleted or Instagram threw me off that platform, I'd be upset for sure, but it's not going to destroy my business. That's for sure, because my workhorse in my business is email, and nobody can stop me from sending emails to my audience. It's really powerful. I get directly into people's inboxes. Now, there is definitely an art to it. If you're just sending generic, crappy spam, of course, you're going to get caught in spam filters. Of course, people are going to unsubscribe. There is absolutely an art to email marketing. There's a lot of depth to email marketing. It's not just a matter of, hey, let's send a mass email to our whole audience and spam them as much as possible. That is not email marketing. There is definitely a strategy, but you might have noticed recently, if you've been on our list, that you're getting emails more frequently. Now, that's a result of us doubling down on email marketing. Now, why have we done this? Because a lot of people want to hear from us much more often. Now, are there people who get annoyed that we email too often? Absolutely. Of course there are. But if I'm going to sit there worrying about people who might get annoyed or people who are unsubscribing, there's no way that I could ever possibly run my business. I do my marketing for the people who want to receive it. At the end of the day, they're people who are going to turn into leads, into prospects, into clients. Someone who gets annoyed and gets unsubscribed easily, they're probably never going to give you attention. They're probably never going to become a client. If someone doesn't give you their attention, they're certainly not going to give you their money. And while it's not all about money, we do definitely want to capture attention. We do definitely want to make conversions. We do definitely want to move people to the next step and move forward. So really, like I said, if you've been a little bit lax on email, if you haven't been emailing your list very often, now is the time to really think this through. Next, you are a media company. Yes, you have leads. Yes, you have prospects. Yes, you have clients. But now is the time to really think of yourself as a media company, because you have an audience. And that is so much more valuable than just thinking of yourself as a business, as somebody who is there entertaining, informing an audience, creating that connection with your audience. There are emerging platforms, right? So we know TikTok is growing in popularity, and one of the things that I'm investing in much more is video. Video has become an incredibly important part of your media mix. Over the last year, I've really been hammering home, you're not just a business, you're a media company. Have a look at what's happening in the marketplace. In the last year, there have been normal businesses that are all investing very heavily in media companies. Remember, we talked about the landlord and the tenant. Now, the media has gone cuckoo in the last few years, and there's all of this stuff fake news and nobody's trusting the mainstream media. Now, if you've been reliant on mainstream media, on ads, on all of those sorts of things, those things are getting less and less attention. They're getting less and less traction. You are a media company means that you can have a direct connection with your audience. That is so powerful. And that's one of the reasons why these technology companies, even just normal brick and mortar companies, are buying media assets. For example, Jeff Bezos bought the Washington Post. HubSpot bought The Hustle, and they've been buying up different podcasts. Why? Because now they can reach their audience in an authentic way, in a direct way. They're not reliant on some third party. They're not reliant on ads, and they can reach their audience directly. That's one of the reasons why email is so powerful. HubSpot in 2021 paid, I think, $30 or $40 million for The Hustle. And The Hustle is just an email newsletter. It's an email newsletter that goes out daily to, I think, a tech savvy audience of about 1 million people. So they paid potentially up to $40 per subscriber to reach their ideal audience. Why? Because they know this tech savvy audience, is a percentage of them is going to convert to paid HubSpot memberships and paid HubSpot clients. And I think this is super, super valuable. I don't think it's going to be weird in 2022 for a company to hire an in-house videographer. And like I said, I've doubled down on video. I've literally set up a studio in my house. This is actually me in my studio. I've got professional equipment. I've got an SLR camera. I've got a beam splitter here. I've got a really good microphone. I've got a whole studio setup. Hopefully I'm coming across really well on video. I'm thinking of this because I do more and more of these webinars. I get invited to speak at different conferences and things like that. And it's mostly been virtually over the last couple of years. And yes, it's going to cost money to invest in a good camera and a good setup and all of those things. But I think of it this way. If I was physically turning up at that conference, I'd wear nice clothes, wouldn't I? So I'd invest in myself to come across to my audience in a good professional manner, in a way that showed that I really cared about my appearance, that I cared about the audience. And I'm thinking of this from a virtual aspect as well. Why wouldn't I show my audience that I really care about presenting myself professional the way that I would in person? Video is going to be a real key part of what's going to be happening in 2022. And it's no surprise that platforms like TikTok are taking off like crazy. Now, Instagram is really a video first platform. So really thinking of how are you going to present yourself as a media company online on your various platforms. And this ties very well with email marketing, because a lot of what we're going to do with our emails is direct people to video content, direct people to different trainings and things like that. So thinking about the different modalities that you're going to reach people with. When I talk about modalities, some people really love reading. That's text. Some people love listening. That's things like audio books and podcasts and things like that. And then there are people who are like very video focused. They love watching, right? In your media strategy, you want to be able to hit those 3 different modalities. We do blog posts, we do emails. I've coming out with a podcast, and we certainly do video in our video training, in our webinars, in different outreach and things like that. What I like about video is that you can turn it into the other modalities. If I record something on video, I can strip the audio and use the audio for my audience who like to listen. And then we can take that audio and we can transcribe it, and then we can create blog posts from it. We can create emails with it. So it's a very powerful way to create that content flywheel where you do the work once and you can reuse it and repurpose it multiple different ways, so that you're not having to use up heaps of different resources to create those different modalities. Next, I want to talk about in-person experiences. Zoom fatigue is real. It's very hard to run a full day Zoom event, and I'm dying to get back to in-person conferences. Someone invited me to an in-person conference the other day, and it was like kind of a mediocre event, mediocre speaker, but I'm dying to get back to in-person experiences. And so creating some of those in-person experiences, attending some of those in-person experiences, that's something that people are really craving right now. So start thinking about that. It's very easy as marketers to sit behind a computer and just do the digital stuff. And that stuff is powerful, right? No doubt digital marketing is powerful, but think about offline media. Can you send someone a handwritten note? Can you send someone a package? Can you send someone something physical? Because that's going to help you stand out. Imagine it's your significant other's anniversary. You can send them a lovely text message, but doesn't it make a bigger impact if you have a handwritten card and something physical, a personalized gift? And we're going to get into personalization in just a moment. That would make such a bigger impact than just your little text message. The exact same thing is true with your customers, with your prospects, with everyone that you're dealing with. What can you do that's going to be tangible? It's an excellent opportunity to get firsthand insights. If you're not familiar with an audience, or you're not familiar with a particular industry and you want to break into that industry, go to one of their in-person events, because you're going to see speakers who are talking about the real topical stuff that's going on in their industry. You're going to be able to talk to people and network with them and figure out what's going on in their industry, what's disrupting them, what are they afraid of, what are the opportunities in those industries. And you're going to be able to get a lot more insight than just online research. Next, I want to talk about personalized marketing and personalized experiences. Personalized experiences are going to be so important. In 2019, we could have gotten away with being a little bit mass marketing. In 2022, that is gone. You want to build a tribe of raving fans. You want to use technology as much as possible to replicate that personal experience. Remember, what we want to do in 2022 is human to human interactions, human to human experiences. And I'm going to show you a couple of examples of this that we're doing. So you might have noticed recently on our website, we added a little chat button. Why? Because again, we want to have that human to human experience. We want real people who monitor and chat with our audience. If we could use technology to replicate in-person experiences, then that's something that we can get at scale. And there's a reason why I'm showing up on video. I could have just shown up on audio, or I could have just emailed you out the slides, or I could have sent you a video. But as much as possible, I want to replicate the experience of you and I being in a room and having a conversation. So those experiences are going to be more and more important, more and more powerful. I'll show you another way that we do it. So we use personalized videos. So very often when I'm responding to someone, particularly if it's a client or someone like that, they might have sent me an email. And of course I can reply via email personally, and I do. But sometimes I'll send them a nice personalized video, quickly hit record, and I say, hey, John, here's a video reply to your question, so on and so forth. It just gives a nice touch. But here is where you can really use it to juice up your cold outreach. So many people send these mass unpersonalized outreach emails, and guess where they end up? They're all in your spam folder. Go to your spam folder and have a look. They're all the people who are just copying and pasting and sending the same garbage to thousands and thousands of people. Now, a much more powerful strategy is to use personalized outreach with video. We're being personal, and we're almost replicating that in-person experience. And the technology has come such a long way. So for example, for personalized video, I use a platform called Loom. And there's another one that we use called Video Ask, which we use to ask for video testimonials. And these are really powerful platforms that allow you to replicate in-person experiences, that allow you to create those experiences that are really personalized. Next, I want to talk about emerging platforms. As entrepreneurs, it's easy to get on that treadmill. Every day, you and I, we're putting out fires. We're putting out fires with employees, with customers, with suppliers, all of that sort of thing. And it's easy to stay in the here and now. And one of the things that I consistently think of is what's coming to either be an opportunity, or what's coming to disrupt my industry, my business, my clients, what's going to be happening. And I think it's essential to be experimenting with new platforms, new technologies, new things that are coming up in the landscape. Maybe you don't go all in, but you might put in 5% of your budget, or maybe 5% of your effort into those things. And for me, over the years, that kind of strategy has paid massive dividends. Now, have I tested stuff that went nowhere? Of course. Have I invested in stuff that's gone nowhere? Absolutely. But I have won big by investing in things that are kind of emerging. I'll give you a couple of examples. I started my first business by tinkering around with IT technology. I was an IT geek, and I'm like, I wonder if anyone would pay for a managed IT service. And that was revolutionary at the time. Now this is run of the mill. And so I was experimenting with that. I ended up building quite a big business from that and exiting that for a lot of money. Then during that business, as a little bit of a side project, I was starting to experiment with this new telecom technology. It was called voice over IP. Now it's kind of a standard thing, nothing new. But at the time it was brand new. And I'm like tinkering with it a little bit. And I'm thinking, I reckon I could build a business around this. And of course, that grew into a very large business for me that I exited for more money than I'd ever seen in my life. And I'm doing this right now as well. I'm betting on emerging platforms, on emerging technology. And like I said, I'm not going all in. I'm not putting 100% of my budget and 100% of my efforts on that. But I'm putting in maybe 10% because I know a lot of them will go to zero, but I know some of them will absolutely skyrocket. I like to use what I call a barbell strategy, meaning I'm working on the stuff that I know works 90% of the time, but then 10%, 5% of the time, I take a chance on something like a flyer, something that I'm not sure is going to work, but it looks very promising. One of the things that I'm going to be taking chances on this year is TikTok. That's an emerging platform. Like I said, video first. I believe that's going to be a winning strategy. I'm looking at what's happening in the crypto space and things that are going on there. In almost any business, there's going to be something that's going to be disrupting you, or there are going to be competitors from interstate, from overseas, from everywhere that are going to potentially disrupt you. What we call that is a skunkworks. Skunkworks in your business is, there's going to be disruptive stuff happening in your industry, in your business. And that's where I focus quite a bit of time and energy, is thinking about the future. What's going to disrupt us? Here's a couple of examples that I have in mind. This is the very last blockbuster on the planet. It's in Oregon. And people now go there to take selfies. Now, they were absolutely dominant in their time. Blockbuster Video was on every corner. They had billions and billions of customers. They made crazy money. And now there's one left. So I don't want to be Blockbuster, and I don't think you do either. If they were thinking about emerging platforms and things that were coming to disrupt them, they would have been the Netflix. They would have been the streaming services. This is the cover of Forbes in 2007, and the headline says, Nokia, 1 billion customers, can anyone catch the cell phone king? And of course, a few months later, Steve Jobs introduced the iPhone, and the rest is history, as they say. So what is going to disrupt your business? What is going to disrupt your industry? What are the trends that are coming? What's going to be the version of the iPhone or the version of Netflix that's coming to potentially disrupt your industry? Because right now we're seeing a lot of disruption. Now, my final and most important trend that I need you to understand and really internalize, this is so important, and this could potentially kill your business. I call it the silent killer. So what's more dangerous than a killer? A silent killer. What is it? It's isolation. And I don't mean just isolation related to COVID. I've certainly felt it. Many people have felt that. But even pre-COVID, isolation for an entrepreneur is both unexpected and dangerous. You not being able to connect with like-minded people is powerful in a negative way. This loss of social community, it's something that really can kill a business, and it's one of the big dangers of being in business. And so you need those sounding boards. You need people that can really help you in situations of uncertainty, of self-doubt. Sometimes you're doubting yourself. Am I crazy for doing this? Is this really going to work? Should I just pack it up and just do something else? And because people around you are probably telling you that. People who love you, a spouse, a partner, a friend, or whatever, they're like, why are you doing this? And they're not being mean. They want the best for you. They don't want to see you hurt. I've learned this about family and friends, is they're not optimizing for you to get the best outcome. They're optimizing for you to not get hurt, to not get a downside. They're not usually optimizing for the upside. And so it's a completely different mindset when you're networking with other entrepreneurs who will encourage you to think about the upside. Hey, have you thought about this? Have you done it this way? This is what I'm trying and it's really working. And so that's a completely different mindset. You need a peer group. You need people who understand your struggle. That's why it's so important to have that community. And that's one of the reasons I built Marketing and Business Academy. It's all about creating that community of people who really understand you, who understand what you're going through, who you can network with, who you can bounce ideas off. It's not just shooting the breeze with other entrepreneurs. It's a guided approach. We have expert coaches who will guide you through your struggles, who will help give you advice. And it's so powerful when someone can do that, because I wasted years and years of my time trying to do things through trial and error. I thought I was clever, but I was really dumb. If I was clever, I would have joined a group of like-minded people that was led by an expert who could guide me, who could save me years and years of time. Like I said, we've put together Marketing and Business Academy. It's all about getting rid of that dangerous isolation, networking with a group of like-minded people. And it's not going to be webinar. It's not going to be text-based. We're going to on Zoom. We're going to see each other. We're going to talk through problems and experiences that we've got. It's going to be guided by my team of expert coaches. It's at successwise.com/MBA. I'd love you to join us in 2022. We've got recordings and trainings, and then there's going to be a live element every week. We're going to get on a call and we're going to talk about whatever issues you're facing right now. So you can ask questions. You can say, look, I'm struggling with XYZ. And there's a group there that can help you, that can guide you through whatever issues you're struggling with right now. Everyone, I really enjoyed today's session. Thank you for being who you are. Thank you for doing what you do as an entrepreneur, because you are changing people's lives. Yes, it's about making money. Yes, it's about financial freedom. All of those things are important, but we are changing people's lives. We are changing the economy. And so we're working on things that are bigger than ourselves. So thank you for being you. I'd invite you to join MBA, and we'll talk again real soon. Bye for now.